Since the original kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machine became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is KICKER.
Check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check.
We're here at the Denso NHRA 4-Wide Nationals here in Las Vegas. Man, we have got two-time funny car, top fuel champion, Cruz Pedregon here, icon of the sport. Dude, we just so appreciate you taking the time. I got to ask you, so we know in 1986, you were driving go-karts, and a year later, you're in a dragster. What made that change of going from wanting to do, track racing to running down straight track racing?
I started out with something I could afford. So there was a little dirt track, a few dirt track races in Southern California that I started racing. Like I said, I could afford it. They're still expensive, but I always had my eye on drag racing. So I caught the eye of an owner that had a low budget team, started out very humble beginnings. I basically worked for food. I worked to race for nothing. So, but I started out, you couldn't have started out further down the ladder than I did, but I'm glad I did because I was able to parlay that into driving for a bigger team through the years, won a championship, and here we are. I own my own team. I've been in business for like 15 years now, or 20 years on my own with Snap-on and KICKER and all the great sponsors. So very exciting time.
Cruz, we know you're super passionate about what you do. we're curious, what drives you, what refuels you off the track when you're at home?
Well, I have a daughter now, so it's I just love my daughter. She's going on 8 years old, so priorities change a little bit. But I've always had this passion for racing, so much so that that's all I would do morning, noon, and night. I would think about it when I got up. I go to bed at night. Racing was my entire life, and it still is. But I share a little bit of that during the off time with my daughter Raya and my girlfriend Melissa. So it's one of those things where the desire to perform at this level and to do it, I feel like I have my best years ahead of me. I have so much more experience than I did when I started out that I want to put that to good use. So here we are.
That's awesome. Well, man, I tell you, Kicker is super proud to be associated with you. We're blessed to be part of, the team and helping out. And hey, now that we've got this killer PA system back here jamming the pits, what's that mean for you and your team and your guests and everybody in your organization?
Well, having a brand like Kicker, number one, is an honor for us. Really, I know it's a brand that goes way back. Heck, we've all heard of them. So for them to be, you guys support us like you do is really an honor for us. But we want to do our part on the racetrack and put your guys' name out there. But as far as what you guys just created for us was really cool. I didn't have any idea of the quality of sound with all the noise, all the race cars starting, all the voices and all the generators running, that we could still hear loud and clear the PA system. So thanks to Kicker, great product, and we have a lot of Snap-on guests that are invited to come out here as part of the customer service to say thank you to the Snap-on customers for buying the tools. So it's a great opportunity for us to speak to them but not have to yell. So they appreciate it. Like I say, the brand speaks for itself. It's quality. So, we're tickled to have them.
Well, thank you so much, man. Look, after 32 some years of blasting down the track, pulling 4Gs, what keeps you pushing to do this, man?
It's amazing because you never get used to these cars. Like, my eyes still burn like everybody else. They're still loud, but they accelerate. Every run is like a new run. You never know what they're going to do, but I feel like I have a little bit less stress because I kind of know what the car is supposed to do and what it feels like to make a good run. So, like I said, as a driver, I've got a few miles on me, but I think in this sport, you can still be a little older and still be able to perform at a high level. So that's what I look at as I don't feel like I'm a deficient guy in this driver's seat. If anything, I hope I can bring something to it. But the day's going to come. Hey, I'm an owner and I have a fast car. The day's going to come where, hey, I'm going to want to look at a younger driver and somebody, to replace me so I can maintain ownership and maybe tune that guy into a championship or gal, whoever. So, but it's a business. I look at it as a business. It has to make sense down the road, but I'm not looking, I'd say another 4 or 5 years in this seat, I'm good.
Hey, I know you're running tight on time. You got a last qualifying run. Again, we're blessed to be with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We love you, brother.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
See you.
Flash! This just in. Extra low frequencies detected emanating from the heavens. Saucer-shaped objects confirmed all over the world. Unidentified flying K saucers spotted delivering Kicker's amazing new CompQ Subwoofer. Built for precision. Built for abuse. Built for the future and benefit of mankind. Kicker's new CompQ woofer leaves audiences astounded and amazed as it reveals subtleties in their favorite music in a way that is sure to make women blush and grown men cry. The surround features Kicker's variable cross-section high-roll design, allowing extended cone travel and excellent cone control. It's firmly attached to the cone, reinforced with our iconic stitching. Betsy Ross would be so proud. The injection-molded solo cone and laser X cone brace combined in a single ultra-rigid unit. Venting in the brace relieves performance-robbing back pressure. All this adds up to very low distortion and amazingly clean low bass. The progressive roll blue lace spider adds even more cone control at at maximum excursion. The woven tinsel leads are sandwiched between the spider and the lace for durability and long life and to prosper. The spring terminal's heavy-duty square design accepts wires as big as 8-gauge or two 12-gauge wires for multi-sub installations. The high-temp voice coil is rumored to be spun upon the looms of the gods of polyamide fiberglass, along with a reinforced former for high strength and power handling. Now, add colossal magnets, plus a cavernous bump backplate, an extended pole piece created in a single forging, the likes that haven't been seen since the creation of Poseidon's trident. And the result is a driver with superior control and effective heat dissipation that extreme performance demands. The all-new KICKER Comp Q is designed from the ground up to deliver everything you demand from a premium subwoofer. High output, deep, powerful, accurate bass, remarkably small enclosure requirements, stunning good looks, and not to mention the ability to frighten small children when turned up to 11. So there you have it, the all-new KICKER Comp Q subwoofer, another zenith of innovation and epic majesty from KICKER.
I built my first speaker to be louder. I was playing in a band and the drummer played so loud and the keyboard that I had wouldn't play very loud, and I went to my dad and said, I need a bigger speaker. It's a Fender Bandmaster, it costs $300. He dropped the newspaper. It said, $300? Yeah, but he didn't say no. He said, is it something that we could build? And so that's how I got started building speakers. The thing that I love to see is a product that we made and get to stand back kind of anonymously and watch somebody take a look at it, listen to it, and go, wow. I think that's what really lights my fires, to make products that people enjoy and have fun with. As time went on, I heard people say, you know, KICKER's like a family. I actually didn't set out to do that. I thought it sounded kind of hokey. I thought they were insincere and just saying that. After a few years, I realized, yeah, maybe that's what we've got. And that's the key, is the good people on your team in the band that makes the band really great. Well, I think KICKER is primarily a lifestyle company. That's a little backwards of where I started. I thought we were a technology company and we would make great products, but as time went on, realized that it's about people and helping people to enjoy their life and what they do. And that's what I do too. So share the love a little bit, I guess.
Good evening, everyone. It is 7:30 Central Time. You know what time it is. It is Tuesday night. It is Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time to the show, thanks for being a new participant. If you're an old school, you know what's going to happen tonight. We're going to talk about some product. We're going to talk to we actually have a guest. We didn't let you know. He's going to come join us here on the show a little bit tonight. You know, we enjoy doing this show. It's all about kind of the Kicker universe. We also talk about general car audio itself, and we like to play with science every now and again. You know, we show like the Science of Wire show. If you haven't seen that show, you might as well check it out. It's a two-part series, and we had a lot of fun actually showing the capabilities of wire when you run a lot of current through it. It was a good time on that show. We enjoy doing all sorts of shows like that. If you have any input into what you'd like to see coming out of the Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly Studios, man, you got to throw us an email. social@kicker.com. Get you straight into Bill Frog's inbox in the back. If you got an idea of something you'd like to see, you got a product you'd like to see us talk some more about, you know, we get a lot of people who ask about the Key. We've done a lot of things with Key. We'll keep doing things with Key if you want to see more information on that. But this show is really for you guys and gals who are tuned in and watching. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And again, if you have any great ideas, be sure you throw those in to social@kicker.com. We'd love to have you tell us what you like about the show. Speaking of liking the show, as you know, we don't monetize this. There's not any ads. We're never going to do anything like that with this through our YouTube feed or on Facebook. But man, if you could do us a favor, you don't have to do it now, but on the way out the door tonight, if you like the content, if you like what we're doing on the show, do us a huge favor and smash that thumbs up button. It really helps us know the content, that you're enjoying it, and it helps us with the guys upstairs. We want to buy new things and bring them into the studio or get new test gear or do things. It lets us know that people are enjoying the content. So please do us a huge favor. If you like what's going on Unmasked Live, smash that thumbs up button and give us a big like. Tonight, I really didn't want to come out onto the center camera, but Ernie made me do it because you got kind of a view what's on the table here. And this is really going to be the bulk of tonight's show, and I think it's going to be really cool. I think you're going to enjoy it. We actually have raw materials and parts here of an L7T, thin mount L7 subwoofer. And we're going to take you through the whole step of how we actually go from raw materials into a fully functional subwoofer. I think it's going to be a good time. A lot of people ask questions. They want to see things behind the scenes, and how much more behind the scenes can you get than a woofer in its raw form? So that's going to be fun. We'll get to that here in a little bit. We got a lot of other things we need to take care of. Again, people who tune in the show, you already know what's up. If you're first time here, a couple things going on. Every Tuesday night, we do a contest. We kick it off right at 7:15 when we start the pre-roll for the show. We run it up until 8:30, and that's Central Time. Whenever I talk about a time here, guys and gals, remember, it's always a Central Time zone. So we started at 7:15, we roll it up to 8:30, and we give away prizes here on the show every night. So to enter that contest sometime between now and 8:30, you need to go to kicker.com/UMweekly, and Bill Frog and JW in the back, they will run that, scroll that across the bottom of the screen so you can see that on the screen as well. But the nightly contest is UM Weekly. You have until 8:30 Central Time. That's when we cut off the entries. We draw the winners and announce them between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. On top of that, we are running a huge contest with Brian Schmidt and Mobile Solutions. It's for their Master Tech Expo. That's a big event that's going to be happening next March, if I've got my dates right. You'll be able to find it. It's actually online. Just go to kicker.com/giveaway. And you have until October 4th at midnight to enter that contest. That contest is huge. You're going to get a seat paid for to attend the Master Tech Expo. Kicker is, no pun intended, kicking in. We're going to cover the plane flight to and from the event for one person. We're going to cover your hotel room, and we're going to throw you, I think if I remember, it's $350 cash so that you can use that for meals or food or drinks or whatever you need to get while you're on the trip. Two great contests. The one is a nightly one tonight. That's kicker.com/UMweekly. Get in there before 8:30. And then the one that runs until October 4th, that's kicker.com/giveaway. So hit those links, get in the contest. Love to have you join. With that said, I'm going to move over here to a stool. Means I'm going to get to another camera view, which, speaking of moving to another camera view, before I do that, Tim is back in the studio. Why don't you, hey, Ernie, give me an overhead view. Can you get an overhead shot? I don't know if he'll show up down here in the big thing, but, you know, Tim and I are clear down here at the back. You can see us. There's Timbo back there. And then it's the full crew back in the studio tonight. So we got Tim back behind cameras. Great to have him back in the studio. And then back behind the scenes, as always, we've got Ernie on the main switcher controlling audio and video. We've got JW, Jeremy Wynn, back in the house. He's back there helping with the comments and the StreamYard feed. And we got Bill Frog on social media duty. Hey, there they are up on the screen. Everybody give a wave back there. I see JW, see Ernie. What's up, Bill? So it is nice to have the full family back here for tonight's show, which means there'll be plenty of mistakes because we haven't been together for so long. Each of us are going to drop the ball somewhere, so we'll just pick it up and run with it. So that's it. I'm going to move up here to my laptop because I've got some things. I got the contest taken of who's in the studio. You know, tonight we had a great meal tonight, and as always, thank you to our direct supervisor, Mr. Kevin Campbell. And he's the director of marketing. Of course, Steve and Becky and the entire management team at Kicker, you know, they allow us to break bread together before we do the show, which really helps out because it's a long day. You know, we come in, we put in our full day here at the office, and then we do this show here at 7 o'clock. And really the whole day here at the office is getting ready for this show. So we appreciate them letting us have dinner on the company. Tonight, Boba Fusion. So if we're doing a foodie review tonight, if you're from the Stillwater area and you like Asian kind of smashed with, you know, it's kind of a Chinese-Japanese blend. Man, there's nothing better than Boba Fusion. I had some sushi tonight, miso soup. It was so good. So that's what we had tonight. So shameless plug for Boba Fusion. If you don't know, and you're in Stillwater, go check them out. They have great food down there. So that takes care of those. Who's in the studio? Ernie, if you will, I'm at the laptop. Can you bring up my laptop as a feed real quick? And what I want to do is, again, just touch on this real quickly. This is the Weekly link. If you guys will go hit it, and I loaded this up before we started the show, so mine says 52 minutes left, so that's not correct. But as you can see, we've got tonight's grand prize. We're actually giving away a VL7R10, a 10-inch L7R loaded subwoofer enclosure. Plus, you're going to get a set of those koozies that we talk about all the time, and a Kicker limited edition live, Unmasked Live t-shirt. Second and third place, as always, we're giving away those EB300 earbuds, some Kicker koozies, and a limited edition Unmasked t-shirt. That's your link to join for tonight at the nightly contest for night. And then again, if you haven't hit it, go check it out. This is the Kicker and Master Tech Expo giveaway that we're doing in conjunction with Mobile Solutions. And right there's a link. Right now, man, 77,600 entries. So apparently some people are interested in this. It's a great prize. You know, we can partner up with someone and do a big prize like this. We love doing it. So big shout out and thanks to Brian Schmidt at Mobile Solutions. He will actually be joining us in studio on October 5th. That's the Tuesday Unmasked show on the 5th. He'll be joining us for the giveaway, announce the winner. And then last but not least, events. A lot of people want to know where you can find Kicker out in the field. Bill has been really good at staying up on top of this and keeping it into our Kicker page. So if you just go to Facebook, go look up Kicker. You can then go over to the events section, and right here you'll see all the events listed that we have. Of course, tonight, hey, going from Steel Slug to Slammin Sub, Slammin Sub, that's tonight's show. We've added to the schedule. We are now one of the sponsors for the 2021 Car Audio Championships. It'll be happening down at Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and that is the SPL portion, if I remember correctly. And then there's a second part of that show that happens later in the month, which is actually the sound quality event, and we're actually a sponsor of that. So if you're into that thing, which I hope you are, you're into watching Kicker Unmasked, you're into car audio, we are now one of the sponsors for the Car Audio Championships. The Fall OSS meet is scheduled for October 16th. Look for more information on that either here on Unmasked next week or probably tomorrow night on 12 Volt Talk. So if you're familiar with the show, 12 Volt Talk, that's we got Hi-Fi Vega and Big D Wiz. We're going to probably discuss that a little bit tomorrow night. And then last but not least on our calendar is the Showdown and the Great Las Vegas Taco Festival. That is an event being put on by our friend and partner, Mr. Steve Barber at Sharton On 'em out there in Las Vegas. It's going to be a huge event. We are the title sponsor for that event. It's going to be a great time. Lots of great food, lots of great music, a car show. So there's going to be great cars to look at. And of course, the competitions will be there as well. That's the Showdown part of it that Steve is hosting. So that is everything in a nutshell on the event side of the equation. Always stay tuned to the Kicker Facebook page. Any updates we will put on there. And of course, we talk about here on Unmasked Live Weekly. So if you have any questions about events, throw those into the chat feed. Bill and Jeremy back there, if they come across good questions, they will bring those up, throw them on the screen so I can see them, and we will address those as we go along. So if it's your first time here, you don't know how we do things here, but man, it's kind of an open format. If you got a question, just throw it in that chat feed. Jeremy and Bill will do our best to get those up and on the screen. We get a lot of comments. We can't get them all, but we try to take care of the ones that are like, okay, this is something that a lot of people want to know. Let's ask this question. So, man, throw those into the chat feed. Speaking of questions, I want to bring in a special guest. A lot of you may know him already. At least I hope you do if you're a fan of Kicker, and that is Mr. Andy McGill. He is Living Loud with Andy. If you see his feed on YouTube, that's what he runs under. He was the person who started the Kicker Club on Facebook, and it's went from 0 to, 37 million followers, I think, at this point, because Andy's so popular. Huge group, a lot of great guys in there. Andy cruises that group and answers questions about Kicker product, or anything. And it is the Kicker Club, but Andy is one of those guys. He's an enthusiast. He is a Kicker fan, but he knows his stuff, and he's always willing to help and answer questions on anything. And so there was something that posted on social tonight, or today. I'm trying to find my earbud if I look like I'm not trying to scratch the cat here. And so when I saw the post, I'm like, I've got to get Andy on the show. So I reached out to him right about dinner time, and he agreed to come on the show. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Andy McGill, Mr. Living Loud himself, in to the studio with us here. Ernie, if you don't mind, bring him on board. Hey, what's up, my brother?
What's going on, Kip? Thanks for bringing me on. So you seen that post yesterday, today?
I don't know when the post was posted. Sandy claims, I'll use the quote claims, that she sent out a group text to let me know. And I was like, I don't see the group text. I don't know what's going on here. But as Ernie's bringing up the picture there to the left, it sounds like you have some information that you've shared with a small group of people. And I thought, what the heck? Let's share it with the whole Kicker community. What is going on in your life, brother?
Yeah, yesterday was Kayla's birthday. And what better time to engage, get with your, I can't propose to Kayla. That's what I did. Sorry. It was really tough for me too. We've been together for over 5 years, and I was still nervous, and when I bought the ring, the lady's like, I'm sure she'll say yes, but you never know. But yeah, it was an awesome moment in my life, and with the right person, I'm 31 and I have a daughter and all that kind of stuff, no one's perfect and all that. And I think this time is the time for life, and what better way to show off the ring. I was on my Kicker amp. I was just making sure, prepping the night before, making sure everything was good, and wasn't sure exactly how I was going to do it, but it went good. I'm glad.
Man, that is so awesome. When you said, obviously you said that you engaged. So you actually proposed and then got engaged. She accepted your engaged proposal, which was a proposal about getting engaged, I assume.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for summing it up.
Yeah, I did do the best I could to not get it horribly wrong. But, I actually had a chance to meet both of you in person. The very first time was it was in Louisville, at a little party that Kicker put on that you and she got to attend. And that's the first time I got to meet you two. Great people. Glad to know you. And I'm excited for you both as far as this next step in your journey through life.
Thank you, Kip. Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. She enjoyed the trip down there too, and all the Kicker employees and yourself. Heck yeah.
Well, it's what's crazy is you knew you had to propose to her because she lets you do all this crazy cardio stuff and actually goes with you and participates. You got to put a ring on it.
Yeah, you're telling me, man. She does like bass, as much as any girl's going to, because it's fun. But yeah, man, she takes care of the kids. She holds down the house while I'm doing the YouTube, the car shows, the Team SP Loud, everything, man. And I love her for that. And she's my rock. Absolutely.
So congratulations, Andy. That's the first thing. There's a lot of people here chiming into the feed. And, obviously everyone's happy and excited for you. So I had to, thank you for wanting to come on the show and actually say it on the show here because I thought it was a pretty big deal. It's a big moment in anyone's life, much less someone who's a Kicker fan that we see a lot of you. And so I wanted to get you on the show.
Thank you, Kip. Thank you. This is awesome too. She deserves it.
Now, real quick, while I've got you on here, there have been a lot of people in the comment feed the last few shows that have asked, they see like Dean and they see Hi-Fi Vega and they see Big D Wiz, Derek on the show. And we've actually had a lot of people asking to get you on the show as a guest for an episode. And so if we were to plan one, say in the next, we plan these shows about a month in advance. So we'd be looking at, we're in September, so we'd be looking at October as far as the month. Well, would you be free to actually come on and do a full show with us sometime in October?
Absolutely. You let me know. I'll try to think of a topic and we'll get to work.
Well,
Totally
it's funny
down.
you say that. That's exactly what I was going to say, is if we're going to have you on the show as a guest, what I'd like for you to do is think of a topic that you'd like to cover on the show. And if it's assets or things we need to get together here, or, anything from R&D, if it's something that's kicker related, or if it's an idea you've got to do some kind of a demo or test of something, we just need some time to actually pull it together and get it for the show. But think about what you'd like to do, because I really think we need to get you on the show. I mean, first off, you are a great guy. Wanted to get you on to congratulate you for your engagement, but the bottom line is, if anyone's in the kicker community and if they follow Facebook or YouTube, they know who you are, and so it makes total sense to get you on the show. But let me ask you real quick, and I'm going to ask you again when we get you back on the show, but what made you want to start the Kicker group on Facebook?
The Kicker group on Facebook. I mean, what really made me want to do it was there was a few other Kicker pages or groups on Facebook, but there wasn't really much activity, and I didn't see too many of your employees per se in those groups, and the communication and stuff. And I'm always helping people on Team Must Be Loud, I Just Want to Bang Harder, Basehead Life, every group, you name it. And it's like, why don't I create almost like a safe place for Kicker fans? Because not gonna lie, people with Kicker, they in the group chats can go south sometimes, and usually I'm the one there to save them, but not all the time. So it's like, you don't have to per se have Kicker stuff, like you said, but let's try to keep it Kicker stuff. There's other groups for that. But I love doing it, and it's awesome that you guys are all in it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't even have to answer sometimes. I'm like, yo, Jeremy got it, Kip got it, Bill got it, someone got it, and it's like they're getting their answers quicker than they would by maybe calling or email. It's almost like a win-win.
It is a win-win for that, and obviously all of us are part of the group. We all joined when you started that thing, and it's grown really fast. I mean, how many people do you have in that group now?
Yeah, we just hit a little bit over 9,000 members right now, so it's pretty good for not even a year old. I cannot complain. I love it.
I'd say that's fantastic, and we're excited to be participating in that. And I couldn't think of a better person to start a Kicker fan page or a page about Kicker product, especially after meeting you at Slamology and getting a demo of your own vehicle. You had a chance to actually meet and demo with Mr. Steve Irby himself, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Monumental part of my life right there, for sure.
I'm gonna ask one question from the feed while you're here, and then I'm going to let you get off, because I know you probably got a lot of things to do, especially with being freshly engaged. But Ryan, I just was scrolling through, and Ryan Base for Life says, hey, when is the Solo X coming out? And so being as I've got Andy McGill on here, who has two Solo X 18 cones in the background, there couldn't be a better person to have on with me to ask and answer this question. So, the Solo X, as we kind of alluded to, we have this bad habit here, where there's this guy that gets on camera and he lets a lot of stuff out he shouldn't. And I don't know who it is, but he's some guy. And as we try to keep him under wraps, it's really difficult to do. But Solo X was the name of the old high output SPL big bass subwoofer. It was called the Solo X. What we've got now is we're going to have what we call the Solo X family. And the first product that we're talking about in the Solo X family is the L7X. So when you ask about when is the Solo X coming out, I'm going to assume you're asking the question, when is the L7X coming out? And so with that said, I'm going to go and put that comment away. I know you're excited for it, Andy. You're a huge fan of the Solo X. I know you currently have an 18 in your vehicle that you use, and it obviously does a very good job. I've seen a lot of videos. And I know you're excited for the new L7X to come out. Obviously, we get this question in the feed a lot. And if we haven't shared publicly a lot of information on the L7X, we do updates on the show occasionally. This kind of ties into last week's show, and that's product availability and product development right now in the world as it is. It's kind of slow. Parts, things like when we look at amplifiers and things like that, parts are way out. There's huge lead times to get in line, and it's because of the global reaction to everything that's been going on the last 18 months. So with all that said, we're just realistic about it, and we are moving forward. I mean, when Dean was here, he actually had a chance to walk into the destruct room, and there was a couple L7Xs under test. He saw them working operational. We are in the development, the testing. I mean, we're close. We're very close for that project being wrapped up. But as far as actually getting it into the public's hand, we're really looking probably Q1 or Q2 of 2022. So that's going to be this coming spring. Is when you'll probably see the L7X actually available to purchase. Now understand, we're just trying to look at this and put a realistic time frame on it. If things have been a normal world for this last 18 months, the woofer would have already been shipping. It would have already been out in people's hands, and Andy had been going, all about it. But it's just not a normal world right now. So we've had to delay and push because it's just taking a lot longer to develop things right now. And much less produce the things we already make. But developing new product has been really slow. So we know everyone's excited out there. I know Andy, I know you. I've seen you answer a lot of questions. I've seen the questions come up in the Kicker fan page on Facebook, people asking about the L7X or Solo X. And so just want to let everyone know, we can do some more updates as we go. If we can get the driver out sooner than Q1, Q2 of 2022, we're going to do it. We're not just going to wait till then. We're going to release it as soon as we've got it in-house. But understand, it's just taken time, and the reason it's taken time is, number one, we want it right, and number two, it's taken a long time to do things the way we do them because of the current situation globally. So you have anything to tie into that, Andy? Like I said, I know you deal with that question a lot on your fan page.
Yeah, I hear it a lot, and that's the thing where people are like, when's it coming out? And it's like, man, it's tough because you guys introduced that you were making it so long ago, and then when everyone heard it, everyone wanted it now. And that's just how the world is. And it's like, well, the pandemic kind of knocked that kind of out of the window. And now it's like, well, we're trying the best we can. I mean, you go to any store, a lot of things are out of stock. Head units, cars, you know what I mean? You name it. You can't buy anything. You got the money. But it's definitely going to be worth the wait. If you guys can get it done in Q1, Q2, that's perfect for competition season. Get your baffles ready, throw them in. You're good to go. It will definitely be worth the wait. Just from the videos that I've seen, I never actually heard one yet. And it looks awesome. You know what I mean? I've seen some TS specs. I'm like, okay, that's nice. That'll work.
Yeah, I think you've been one of the few lucky people that we've shared some of the preliminary TS specs with. People are asking that. I see the question in feed all the time on our Facebook page and YouTube. As soon as we're comfortable with what we feel are going to be pretty close to finalized teal small specs, we will publish those. So you'll have an idea. I've had guys say, hey, I want to start building my box, or I'm designing my system. I'd like to know. And I was like, okay, we want to be pretty close. Understand, though, that even if we release preliminary specs when we're comfortable with it, once we get to final production, things can drift a little bit in final production based on that, or if we find something we want to change or tweak at the last minute. So final TS specs really aren't going to exist until the product's here in the warehouse. But we will release prelim specs that we feel will be good enough for someone to look at and go, okay, I can start doing some box design around this and get in the ballpark. But we're not there yet. You'll be one of the first ones to get it. You and Steve Barber are at the top of the list. I mean, if there's specs to release, you two are getting it first.
Let me know. It's going to go in Kayla's car, actually.
Awesome.
The new L7X is, I don't know if I want a 15 or two 12s. I'm deciding.
Yeah, and that is, glad you bring that up. The new L7X that's coming out, it is going to be available in a 10, a 12, and a 15. Yes, lots of you have asked, is there going to be an 18? Yes, lots of you have asked for an 8, or a lot of you have asked for a 6. I'm not saying we may or may not do those other sizes as we move forward. The best thing I can tell you is understand we're releasing a 10, 12, and 15. L7X, it's part of the Solo X family. It's going to be worth the wait. Andy has reposted the video several times of the L7X that we haven't, in-house doing slow motion rolls with low frequency. It's the real deal.
Oh yeah. Flexing, straight flexing. What's that got, like 2 inches of excursion or something? It's crazy.
The 12 is actually a little over it's like 3¼ inches peak to peak mechanical travel on the L7X12.
That puts that one to shame, man. Really does.
Well, you bring that up, and maybe this could be part of what we talk about when we have you on the show. But people keep asking the question: is the new one going to be as good as the old one? Is it going to be the same? I'm just here to tell all of you straight up: whatever the old Solo X did, this one trumps it in spades. It's going to do a whole lot more than the old driver did. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. That's the one thing I hear is the RMS. People look at the RMS rating. They're like, oh, the old L7 or the old Solo X was 2,500 RMS. This one's 2,000. And I just tell them, family, you know?
I love how you put it. All right, with that said, I'm going to let you get out of here. I know you're going to be in the feed, so if you have any questions, chime in. We're going to get into the bulk of what we got here for the remainder of the show. I just want to say again, congratulations on your engagement, man. I'm so proud of you and happy for you, and look forward to having you on a show next month. I think people will be excited to have you join us for a full show.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Kip, and I appreciate the time being on here, and I'll see everyone in the chat.
Thanks, Andy. So that was Mr. Andy McGill. When we found out that he had got engaged, we just had to get him on. I thought that was a really cool thing, especially knowing both of those. So congratulations to both of you. Proud to know you and happy for you. So with all that said, I'm looking through here, make sure I've got all my things taken care of here. Blah, 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 blah. That takes care of everything, nutshell. So with that said, JW, if you have any good comments that come up that you feel are appropriate, man, be sure you throw those on the screen. Let me get a look at them so we can handle those. Harris Hot Rods, will there ever be a kicker head unit receiver for cars? Harris Hot Rods. Good question. I can actually tell you, Harris, I've lived long enough and been here Kicker long enough to actually eat the words when Kicker said we would never get into head units. And the reason we said it is because of our relationship with the original equipment manufacturers, in other words, the people who make the cars, we knew there was coming a time where there's going to be the radio so tightly integrated that you're not going to change it in a car. You're going to be able to add speakers, you're going to be able to add amps and do all those great things, but you're not really going to change that radio easily, and in some cases, not at all. So I remember we always said, no, we're never going to get into head units. Well, I can eat my words now. We make a full line of head units for ATV, UTV, marine. I mean, they're those type of radios. They're media units for that. We have a lot of guys who do rods and customs that will end up using the KMC source units in those applications because they're great. They're nice, colorful displays. If you get into the color models like the KMC4 and the KMC5, they're very compact. They have Bluetooth, they have aux in, they do USB, they do everything you want. They got 4.5 or 5 volt preamp outputs. They're great head units. So I know that's not a DIN or a double DIN in the sense that most people think of when they think of car radio. But the truth of the matter is, in today's cars, there is no DIN or double DIN location anymore. It's why a lot of the Halo with the floating screens and things like that are becoming so popular, because that's the only way that they can get something in the dash. It's not a full chassis. They can get it in and they can get the screen to pop up and actually get you a quote unquote aftermarket radio in those cars. Some cars you can't do that with. You need dash kits and things. And there are some cars where just replacing the radio is just really, really difficult, if not impossible. So I don't want to ever say never, ever again, because I don't eat those words. But as it sits right now, the KMC line that we make, they work well in all the applications we do them for. And if you're doing rods or customs or things like that, we have a lot of guys throwing that radio into their cars. So for right now, that's what we have for a source unit. And people use them in cars all the time. And they work great in there if you integrate them into that. So hopefully that answers your question, Harris. It's a good question. Thank you for asking that. So Ernie, if you don't mind, we got, there's a lot. You and I spent a lot of time this afternoon putting out what's on this table. But if you could let's bring up the doggone it, not the blow apart, but the line drawing. Thank you. The words were escaping me. I'm sitting here going, what is it? Bring up the line drawing and let's take a look at that real quick. Because the bulk of tonight's show, folks, what I wanted to talk about and show, and I thought this would be kind of fun, is this is a line drawing for an L7T subwoofer. So this comes straight out of our engineering department. This is a cutaway view of looking at an L7T. And so, we've got acoustical engineers, we've got mechanical engineers, we have electrical engineers, and they all are great in their specialty and what they do. And of course, this is a mechanical cutaway right here. What's cool is you can see how we figured out how to make the subwoofer shallower, but still maintain that kicker bump back plate that's been around forever that allowed kicker woofers to have that great long throw that they're always known for, and also have that great concentrated magnetic field up there right around the voice coil. And you see our engineers figured out is that basically took the bump and they inverted it. So the cone is actually designed to come down and fit around that bump. The bump goes up. So we get the inverted motor structure. We just found a way to basically turn it inside out, which is pretty dang cool. So this is a cutaway of an L7T. And then, okay, so that's cool. But now, Ernie, let's bring up the exploded view, because that's really going to be the source of what we're going to look at tonight. And the exploded view here, and these are courtesy of Kyle and Chance over in R&D. They helped me get these things this afternoon. And so the exploded view, as soon as Ernie gets it up here on the screen, I keep waiting for it. I think he's going to bring it up. Ernie? You coming? Okay. Yay. So this is an exploded view of what goes into making an L7T subwoofer. As you can see, there's a lot of different layers and a lot of different parts in there, and it's great to look at in a diagram like that. People get excited when they see things like this. But when we talked about what to do for this show, we're like, you know what? We're lucky in that we actually have the parts from start to finish in just every single aspect of what makes this subwoofer. And what better way to show people how things are made and all the processes that go into it than to use when we've got all the processes right here in front of us. So let's come back to the studio. That is a pull-apart diagram there that shows you. But now we've got the real things right here in the studio, and I want to go over these, each one on its own, and kind of show you what it is and walk through the steps on it. And this is where Tim, first night back in a couple weeks, we're going to make Tim work for his paycheck tonight, which was just dinner, but we're going to make him work for it anyway. So on the table here, maybe come back to camera 2. Give me a nice wide out view there. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Tim's working it tonight, folks. So on this table in front of me, actually 2 tables that we normally see, we actually have the raw materials and the different steps that we go through to make a subwoofer. In particular, this is the L7T. We're going to start down to this left side. We're going to actually go through the basket process, the motor process, voice coil, spider, connection terminals, what makes the surround material, what makes the cone, what makes the dust caps, what makes the basket flanges, the inner cap, the outer cap, all that stuff is laid out here on the table. And this is really cool because it allows us to show you the different steps and processes of how something can go from, say, we'll start down here, a raw sheet of steel plate, and actually get turned into a basket. And we're going to show you every single step of the process through here. So with that said, I'm going to move my stool out of the way and get down here where I can get a little bit closer view. And I'm going to make Timmy, I'm going to make Timmy work for his money tonight. So starting off right here, and as we're doing this, if you have any questions about what we're showing here, specific, man, be sure you throw those into the chat feed. Let JW see those, or Bill Frog, so we can throw them up the screen, and I'll do my best to get to all of them I can and answer them. But as crazy as it looks, and I know Tim's got the capability to get close-up shots, so I'm actually going to point to that camera over there. This is a square piece of steel. So you can get a razor-thin view from the side there, kind of look. But this is literally just a pre-cut steel template, and this is what a speaker basket for an L7T subwoofer starts with. Now, of course, the model we're looking at here, this is the 10-inch, so this is based on doing a 10-inch basket. Understand if this was a 12-inch or an 8-inch, this plate of steel would be a different size, but this is the actual plate of steel that we use to start punching a basket for an L7T 10-inch subwoofer. So this is step 1. It has to be cut down into this shape right here. Now, the next step is it has to go through what's called pressings or punchings. There's lots of terminology to describe it, but basically, we have to create tools for every process that a hard material or a soft material that's formed has to go through to become a finalized product. So as I go through this process on the basket, understand every one of these processes I show you is a different tool because it has to go through and get one process, then get removed and go to another process, and get removed and go to another process. And I forget how many there are here. I think there's 9 or 12. It's somewhere in that ballpark. We'll count them as we go. But we start off with the steel plate, and it goes into that first pressing. And after that first pressing, this is what ends up happening. As you can see, you can see it deforms here on the side. That's because it's pulling metal down in as it's doing the forming. You can see it's been punched down. I'll get a side view here pressed off the Timmy. So you get that steel plate that was just nothing but a steel plate is now starting to take shape as the basket. I'll get you a view of the back right here. So this is the basic shape of the stamped steel basket taking place. And this deformity that you see here at the top and the sides, that's because as the press or the punch is pressing this steel down into the form or the die, it's got to pull the metal from somewhere. And that's where it gets pulled in. It's pulling that metal in to do this shaping process. So this is, first it's cut, this is stamping number 1, and that's where you get this basic raw basket form. Then it goes into stamping number 2. And as you can see here, and I'll get a close-up to Timmy on here, it's still the same basic shape, but you see now there's windows starting to be pressed into the side here. Okay, the metal had to be formed down here first, and then these windows could be put in there. Those windows, besides for venting, also add strength to the whole structure. I know it doesn't look like it adds strength right now, but it does add strength, trust me on that. So that's pressing number 2 of that same piece that we go through. Now, moving on down, we'll get to the next part. And I'm being as careful as I can here. I don't want to cut my fingers tonight. So here you can see, as I rotate it around, I show it to Timmy, now you can see the windows are actually getting punched out of the frame. You can see the side windows, the corner windows, those actually got punched from the frame in this process right here. And this is the next stamping process that gets us further on down the highway to actually making a basket for an L7T subwoofer. So this is the next process right here. And I keep glancing at the screen. If you guys have questions, I'll try to get them up there. If JWC is a good one, I'll take it. So moving on from that one, we go to the next stamping process. And you can see here what really happened on this one. The windows here, the forming here for the terminals and things are going to come out. Those got stamped in to the back of this pressing right here. So you can see that's kind of what happened in this process. But you can see all the holes, each step, they're being pressed in. There's a logical progression to this. The engineers figure it out because they know they have to pull and stress the metal one way, and then they can do certain punches, and they can pull and stress it another way and do other punches. But this is the next step, and you can see the landings here for where the terminals are going to come out has been punched into that one. And then you come to here, and you can see I have to get a view over here. So you can see this window here and this window here have been punched in, and this is what turns into a wire landing holder right there. So that's the next step that's being punched into this process right here is that. And it's just another step down the highway. So now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, here's 5. And we'll move on to 6, and you can see here, I'm going to pull up the one we just had so you can kind of see. So here you can see on the back, you can see the 2 notches at the top and the 2 notches at the bottom that have been formed into that basket. They didn't exist here, just the punches were there. And over here, you can see that these have been added to the process. So it has to go through that punching, then it comes over to another machine, and this punching process happens to put these into the basket frame. Then, here's a big step. It actually looks like a speaker frame now. The excess has been trimmed from the outside. It's been punched. You look at the back, things have been cleaned up. Where these landings were done in the previous process, there's now holes in there. There's now holes in all the back of this. There's holes around the frame here. This is what starts becoming the mounting for the motor. This is where you mount the speaker actually to the baffle that you're going to mount the speaker to, whether it's an enclosure in your car, truck, van, SUV, wherever you're going to put it. But you can see this is the process where it's kind of starting to look like a frame. So from this process, and now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is step 7. Now we'll go to step 8. And what you can see here, the biggest thing, and of course I try to see everything that's happening during the processes, but as you can see here, compared to the previous process, this was just cut clean. And now you can see the edge has been turned up for the front gasket. And so that goes into another process where you can see it went from just being thin, just punched out steel, and now it's rolled up. And that roll up is where the front gasket can attach and also add strength. When you roll that steel up like that, it adds strength to the whole speaker. So that's the next process. So that puts us at 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. And now here, ba-boom, 9. Now it goes into cleaning. It goes into a paint powder coat process. And you end up with, there is the frame for a KICKER L7T subwoofer. And it's crazy to think all the different steps that you have to go through to make that subwoofer and the tool you have to make to go through each one of those steps. So if we go back to the very beginning, we started off with a flat sheet of metal. And after going through those punching processes, finishing and painting, that's what you end up with is an actual finished basket. And we're crazy. We like designing this stuff and doing these things because when you take all this and then you end up at the final stage, you get a woofer. It's gone through testing and tuning and tweaking, and you put it in an enclosure, and then you get to listen to it and hear how it produces music, bass. It's fun. It's why we do it. At the end of the day, we do all this because it's fun. If it wasn't fun, I don't know why else we'd do it. So this is step 1. I wanted to get to you guys and show you that this is the actual basket. Now, from the basket, we go into the motor assembly. And the motor assembly starts off, and this is one of my favorite ones here. This is a round slug of steel. And it is a cylindrical round slug of steel. That's it right there. That's how it starts. And the first process that this round slug of steel goes into It kind of looks like one of those like those Russian doll within a doll within a doll little games that kids used to get. That's what it looks like. It starts a process of where it's flattening and pulling out this round cylinder slug of steel, and this is the first step into it becoming a motor. So there's pressing number 1. And then pressing number 2 gets us to here. And that kind of looks like a speaker motor backplate and pole piece. You can see here the pole's starting to take shape. It's attached one piece to the backplate. You can see the backplate is starting to take shape as well. It's got a little flange on it there and everything. So that's from a very, very, very big pressing machine that's able to compress this steel lug down into this shape. And then after it gets to this stage, it goes into another machine. As you can see, I mean, this is pretty significant. First, if I compare it to the one previously, see how much bigger it's pressed that out and around? I mean, that is a huge increase in the diameter of the back plate on this motor. And if you look at where it started out, that's where it started out, was something like that. So when I say it's a serious press that presses these out, it's no joke. It is one serious press. But as you can see here, it's starting to take more shape. It's we call this the uniplate, by the way. It's a term that started back in the 80s when they were talking about the original kicker motor. And back then it was a really big deal that the pole piece and the back plate were one solid forged piece. It wasn't two pieces glued together or two pieces staked or press fit together. It makes it better for heat dissipation because it can take that heat from the voice coil and pull it right back to the back and radiate it away from the speaker. And it's better for magnetic energy because you don't have a break there. So the magnets, they're trying to send a magnetic energy through the back and through the top and make that bridge where the voice coil likes to play through the gap. This is one of Kicker's, I don't want to say patented because it's really not, but it was really an innovation that Kicker started, which is we call it the uniplate, where it's one piece back and pole. It's very, very efficient at heat cooling, and it's very efficient for the energy or the magnetism to work in a motor. So here you can see it's getting pressed, it's getting thinner, it's getting bigger, pole's coming down. And then to the next process, and I'll put it side by side so you can see. So there's a significant difference here you can see as we go from this pressing to the next one. And if we look at the back, you can see, yes, it's gotten much bigger around. It's starting to put that dimple in the back. It's done some shaping on the back and everything, but that is the next stamping process to get into the uniplate, which is the back plate and the pole piece of the motor assembly. So I'll hold this up and look at it. And then last but not least, final cleaning process and plating to protect it from rust because steel does rust. And there you go. There are the two side by side. This is the raw part before it's went to final cleaning, prep, and everything. And then in its final form, here is the back plate and the pole piece, all one solid piece of steel. And to think that this started off as this right here is pretty crazy. And each of these processes, each of these stamping processes, we have to make a tool and a die and be able to create these as they go through. And that's for every single part on every single speaker because they're not all the same. So that is your back plate and that's your pole piece. Now what typically happens, and unfortunately I don't have one here to show, but what would go here would be your magnets. So your magnets actually sit here on your back plate and stack up, whether it's a single stack magnet, double stack magnet, triple, whatever the design calls for, your magnets go here because then what caps that all off or goes on top is your top plate. And this is the top plate of this particular speaker. As you can see, it just starts off as a donut. Looks like a big washer is what it looks like. And so you can see there's a hole in the middle, round on the outside. It's pretty thick. It's got a pretty good thickness to it there, but it just looks like a big washer. And that big washer goes into stamping. And so this, ka-chunk, turns into this right here. As you can see from a side profile view, it thins it out. It puts that bump in the top there. That's that extended or bump pole piece that we talk about being in the motor, except in the L7T, it's actually extended or bumped toward the inside instead of the back. And you can see that is what it looks like. And then, so this piece turns into this piece. And you can see at this point in the game, it has holes punched in it. Those are threaded for screws. That's what holds this to the basket assembly. There's actually mounting nibs on top or locator nibs so that everything can line up properly. Those lock down. You can see the extended bump back plate here that's coming up instead of backwards that we talked about earlier. And this is plated, finished, and ready to go. And so these two pieces, like I said, normally there would be magnets sandwiched in here, but this goes over that. Pretend there's magnets in there with me. And that right there is the motor assembly for an L7T 10-inch subwoofer right there. Your final part. And to imagine that those two pieces started off like that right there. I think it's pretty interesting. When we came up with this for a show topic, I certainly hope that there's a lot of people out there who are, I know you're bass heads and you're music enthusiasts, but to see how these raw materials actually become a speaker, I thought was pretty cool. And having this available to R&D, we're like, yeah, we got to show this. So that right there. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you real quick, since we're here at the basket and the motor assembly, remember, this is the top of the motor. You got those locating nibs. Here's the basket. And hopefully I'll get it right. If not, they'll let me know. And there you can see. So now those locator nibs line right up with that. And then you can see where the screw holes then are. Then screws go in through here from the basket into the top plate. And then there's an adhesive, a Loctite or something similar to that is used to lock those screws down. And so when this is, I'm going to drop something here if I'm not careful. Apologize, folks. So if this gets locked together with screws, and then that goes on there like that. So I'm doing the best I can to hold this together. There's your motor and there's your basket assembled. That's how that comes together. Of course, no magnet. We're playing pretend. You pretend there's a magnet in there with me. So those are pretty dang cool. So that's your motor. So you got your basket, you got your motor, you got your magnet in there, so it's ready to go. Well, the magnet and these two parts that make up the motor, that's your fixed magnet. That is what has the magnetic field that your voice coil, so this is a fixed magnet, and your voice coil becomes an electromagnet. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have played with those, remember playing with it as kids in grade school. You take the wire, you wrap it around the nail, you apply battery power to it, all of a sudden you can pick up metal, you take the power away, and it drops it because it's an electromagnet. You can energize it and de-energize it. What's crazy, that's exactly what a voice coil does in your speaker all day long. This is a electromagnet, and it's powered by your amplifier. It's given a positive signal or a negative signal of a certain voltage or a certain intensity to represent the waveform of the music that's playing. And this is the one out of the L7T. It is a 4-layer, 2 voice coils. So a voice coil 1 goes down and up, voice coil 2 goes down and up. So it's 4 layers, 2 voice coils. And you can see this is a Kapton former. The wire is wound around the Kapton former. And then we end up with 4 leads coming out the top. And these 4 leads are what you hook your speaker wires to. I know you're not hooking them direct to this, but that's what you're going to connect to. Is this is the voice coil, and this is going to go out. This is coil 1. And this is coil 2, and that's what's going to go to your amplifier. And as your amplifier supplies signal to this voice coil, making it an electromagnet, what it will do is it's sitting here in the motor, and it's going to go up and down just like this. The electromagnet is going to push itself or pull itself against the fixed magnet that is inside the motor assembly. And so when people talk about the gap, like when you're talking about a speaker, you hear people talking about the gap where your top plate and your pole piece meet right there, this area right in there, that's called the gap. And so obviously I'm not going to be able to hold all this together properly and show it without it rubbing, but when it's all centered put together, it doesn't rub. But this, the magnet in the middle, so your magnet's in here creating your fixed magnetic field, comes up here to the gap, and that's where your flux lines of magnetic energy are. They're jumping the gap there between the pole piece and the top plate, and your voice coil is going to attract and repel itself against it right there based on what your amplifier signal is telling it what to do. And a lot of people, you may know this, how this works already, you may not, so hopefully you find this pretty interesting, but that's how any voice coil in any speaker works. So when you look at the parts itself, this is step 1. You have to wind the wire down and back up on your former material. And your former material, guys, this is just the former materials to hold the shape of your coil and give you a place to mount the rest of the parts that are going to come along for the ride on this. Former material can be made out of Kapton, it can be made out of paper, it can be made out of aluminum, it can be made out of stainless steel. There's lots of materials that a former can be made out of. Do not one material may or may not be better than another based on the application that's being used for. So you can't just make the blanket statement that one material is better than another. The engineer who's designing the speaker, maybe they have a weight requirement. Maybe there's an FS that they want to target. And if they use an aluminum voice coil, maybe that's too heavy or not heavy enough, or stainless steel or Kapton. There's lots of reasons, but your former material is what holds your coil together, and it's where you attach the rest of the parts to go to the cone. So speaking of the rest of the parts, this is step one. Then the next step is we add a paper fiberglass wrap here to add strength and act as an insulator. So you can see here, if you look between the two, they look identical, except this one just has the Kapton former. Now we've got this paper wrap around here. Then when we go to step three, you can see from the paper wrap, we actually now have a fiberglass band wrapped at the top for reinforcement and attachment. And we'll put this one down. So now we're at this process, the step in the game. Then the next step, we're at more fiberglass around it to hold the lead wires up against the coil. So you can see from here, the lead wires are kind of hanging out. Here, they're really tucked up tight against the coil with this fiberglass wrap. And then when we go from here, from this step to this step, it may be hard to see on camera. Hopefully you can pick it up. But if you look at the top of the wires on this, you see that the top of all these wires are all copper colored. And if you look at the top of this one, you can see they're all silver colored. Voice coils are made out of what's called enameled wire. So this wire that is wound around here is actually coated with an enamel. So if you were to put an electric current in here and pull it out of here, and you could touch anywhere down here with your multimeter or probe or even your fingers, you can't feel any electricity, you can't measure electricity because it's insulated. That's what the enamel coating does, is it insulates it. That's why this wire is wound around itself. It's not shorting itself together because it's insulated from itself with the enamel coating. So here in this process, when you can see the different color, what happens is you have to strip the enamel off of these ends of the wires right here because you can't connect to them. Electricity won't flow through the enamel. So the enamel is stripped off, and then they are plated with solder, silver plated, not silver plated. They are plated with tinned solder on here, not silver. Please do not think I said silver. That was just the color. So that silver look right there, that is just a plating of solder so that now this can be soldered to the tinsel wires that come in from the spider, which we'll get to those in just a second. But this is the final process. You start here with raw wire, raw enameled wire, and your voice coil former, whatever material is going to be used in that speaker. You wind the wire around precisely, precision, and then you go through the process, and when you're done, you end up with a voice coil that looks just like this, ready to go into the speaker. So hopefully you find that pretty cool. If I'm missing any questions, be sure you holler out at me. So when we move from that process, the voice coil is what moves the speaker up and down. You have to be able to control that speaker. And to control that speaker, there are two things that are used to keep it centered, make sure it doesn't rub in the motor and things like that, and that's your surround and it's your spider. Those both aid to center things, and it also helps to change and control the compliance of the speaker. So your spider, here's a spider, folks, and if you've ever looked at a speaker, I know you know that's not a spider, but here it is. This right here, crumpled up in my hand, this is a piece of cotton cloth. And literally a piece of cloth is cut to be the right size for the spider that we're going to make. So this is step one. It's just a cotton cloth. The thickness of the cloth, the weave of the cloth, that's all determined by the acoustical engineer. They know what they want the spider to do in this speaker design. So this is part of the process. They are going to spec this cloth that they want to use. And then from the cloth, yes. 2 or 4 ohms. How does it happen, Kip? Saber, S-M-A-W, that is a fantastic question, and I'm glad you're asking. It's real easy how that happens. So, take the voice coil here. You can have, this is a 4-layer coil, 4-layer, meaning that this wire comes in, the first voice coil, and it winds all the way down to the former, then turns around and wraps back around itself all the way to the top of the former one time. So one time down, one time back, that's 2 layers. And that's positive and negative for coil 1. And then on the outside of that coil, the exact same thing happens again. The wire starts, it winds down on top of coil 1 one time, comes back up and winds back up on top of itself. So that's down and back once, that's 2 more layers. So this is a 4-layer coil with 2 voice coils in it, coil 1 and coil 2. Now, the impedance that you measure here is a function of the resistance of the wire. Kind of goes back to the Science of Wire show. Jokingly, what I probably should have said in the Science of Wire show is that everything on planet Earth is a resistor. Some are just better than others at letting stuff pass through them, i.e. electrons. Copper is a resistor too. It's just a lot better at letting electrons flow through it than, say, aluminum. So based upon the number of windings, because if you have more wire, and I don't know the length, I wish I did, that's a good question. I'm asking myself a question I want to answer. I don't know how many feet of wire are wound on here, but it's a substantial amount of wire. I think it's somewhere in the ballpark of like 30 feet, if I remember right. So I don't want to be a liar, but I think on this is like 30 feet of wire. So if I've got a dual voice coil, 4 layer, that means the wire goes down and back once for coil 1, down and back twice for coil 2. I can take and raise the impedance, because if the wire is shorter or the wire is bigger gauge, I'm going to have lower resistance. So if I use more wire or I use a thinner wire, I can raise the impedance. So it is literally the job of the acoustical engineer who's designing this product to figure out how many winds of wire do I want in this design. Maybe it's the design where they don't want a lot of weight, so they have to make it with 4 layer or 2 layer. Because if they go to an 8 layer coil, it may be too heavy to do the job they want to do. That's all a function of being an acoustical engineer. So they figure out all those parameters and they figure out, okay, to make this speaker do what I want it to do, I need to have this weight, and to achieve that weight, I'm going to go with this layers of coil, and to do that layer of coil, I need to use this gauge of wire, because I know if I take 30 feet of this gauge of wire and I do this, it's going to come up to 1.9 to 2.2 ohms to call it a 2 ohm coil. Or if I were to use more wire or a smaller wire, I can make it a 4 ohm coil. So it's really a function of the size of the wire and how much of it is wound around the voice coil that helps you determine impedance. That's how that is done. So that's a fantastic question. I actually didn't know that anyone would ask that question, and the fact that you did, that's awesome. But that's how voice coil impedances are done. And what is the black coating I've seen on sub voice coils? Well, Mike Craner, that's a good question. It's an adhesive. The thing about black, a lot of people think that black color helps the voice coil cool better. I don't want to say it does, and I don't want to say it doesn't. It's just that high temp adhesives can often tend to be that blacker color. So usually when you see that black color, it is a higher temp adhesive. If you're doing a woofer that's designed to handle thousands of watts of power, like an L7X, if I had an L7, well, there's one over there. Maybe Timmy gets a chance, he'll go pick me up that spare and I'll take a look at it. I'm pretty sure on that one, we're using a black high temp adhesive on the L7X coil. But so the color, don't get too wrapped up in the color. You can get adhesives to do whatever you want in different colors. There seems to be this premise that people think because it's black, it's better at heat dissipation. I don't know that I fully buy into that, but obviously we've got black going on here. On the L7X, this is actually a black aluminum, and then we're using a black high temp adhesive on this coil right here. So you see, I guess L7T 10-inch coil, L7X 12-inch coil. There's a bit of a difference there. That's awesome. So thanks for the question, Saber. That was a good one. So just understand, when it comes to impedance, it's all that the engineer who's designed the speaker has to figure out is what gauge wire, what length of wire, and then, of course, that determines when I'm designing the motor, how big does the gap need to be? Because if I need to have 8 runs of wire down there, that means my voice coil is wider. So now I got to change the gapping on my motor. Every one of these things that you change in a speaker design affects everything else. And if you make it too heavy, then maybe your resonance is too low. And if you're designing, say, a mid-range speaker, you don't want to have an extremely low resonance because you're trying to play upper frequencies and be more efficient. It all works together. But the general premise is the gauge of the wire and how much of it you use is how you determine the impedance of the voice coil. So hopefully that answers your question like you want. So now back to the spider. Looking real quick at the clock. If you haven't entered the contest yet, better hurry. It's almost 8:30. Hope everybody's gotten the contest tonight. So the next step in our spider is this is the cotton that we start off with, and then it's impregnated with some bonding agent or adhesive or the stiffener. I don't know what the proper word is, but actually you can see this is a lot stiffer than this. This I can crumple up in my hand. This I really can't crumple in my hand. So it's got this in here, and the reason this is put in and impregnated into the cloth is because now through a heat and a forming process, you can take this, which is just a piece of treated cloth, and you can then do this to it, which is now you can see it's got the accordions in it, it's got the punching, it now has a shape, it's been cut out round, and this is the first step to making a spider. Now, once they are stamped like this, you have to bake them, and that's what gets them to stay in their shape, you know. And the amount of adhesive you use in here, the kind of adhesive you use, determines the I don't want to say durometer, but that's not really it. It's really the FS, or how springy this can be. How far can it move, and how springy is it? Because really what this is it's a spring. You see all those rolls in there. It's a spring to help control the speaker. Let it move, keep it centered, and control the speaker. And then from this process, you've got the spider. The next, you can see the center is now cut out, and there's actually these holes that have been punched into the spider, which look kind of interesting. And the reason those holes are punched in there, the center's cut out obviously so it can attach to the cone assembly. And then this, we'll put this down. So those are punched in. We have these holes in here, and these strange holes that you see punched in here are so that we can weave in the tinsel leads into the spider. And by weaving the tinsel leads into the spider like this, this allows these tinsel leads to flex. They can move as far as they need to inside the unit, and they don't or can't go up and actually tap into or rattle against the speaker cone, which is in the old style of designing speakers, and some people still do it today. And there's nothing wrong with it if you get the length of the lead right, but usually there's just a whip of tinsel leads that go from their connector on the outside of the basket and go inside to the voice coil. Well, that whip of wire moves up and down with the speaker, and if that whip of wire is too long, it can actually rattle against the cone of the speaker, and that adds noise that you don't want. And if that lead is too short, you can actually break it or pull it apart. By weaving them into the spider, we get around all those problems. And that's why we started doing this many, many, many years ago. We have different versions of how we do this, but this is just what we happen to use in the L7T 10-inch driver. And so when you get done with this, you've got the tinsel leads on this side. These are going to attach to the voice coil. So these two here are your positive and negative for coil 1. These over here are your positive and negative for coil 2. And then on the outside part, this is going to go to the connection terminals on the outside of the speaker frame where you hook your speaker wire up to. This is the positive and negative for coil 1. And obviously up here, this is the positive and negative for coil 2. And this is how you get the electrical current from your amplifier into the speaker, and it can still move and flex up and down. Is through your spider and through the tinsel leads that are woven into the spider. Again, every process you see here, we have to design a tool to do this for this particular speaker, for this part. Now, once we get to the outside of the speaker, we want to be able to connect wires to it. And as everyone has seen, we kind of use, on a lot of our higher-end speakers, we use our push terminals, and it's kind of a custom that we tooled up for ourselves, and it's square. Kind of looks or represents like the L7 square subwoofer thing. So right here, okay, again? Why don't they use a high-temp rubber for speakers? When you say high-temp rubber for speakers, do you mean for the surround? Do you mean for the spider? The spider, you know, that would be a good question to ask an engineer, an acoustic engineer, as to why they do or don't use that material for that. What I can tell you, for example, is like in our marine speakers, we use a standard spider just like this on the 9-inch and 11-inch cans. So underneath that 9-inch or 11-inch speaker has a standard spider like this. But then up on the top, where the horn comes out through that speaker, we actually put a rubber spider there to keep water and moisture and things from getting down in, especially for salt water. That's really bad, to keep those things from getting down in there. Great for sealing and keeping the water and things out of there. I don't know, just looking at how that speaker works, 'cause I've seen those, I don't know that that rubber spider on top would be really good at being the primary thing for centering and controlling the speaker. For keeping water out and riding along as a secondary shield that can flex and move to keep those things out, it seems to work really well. I don't think it'd work really well as a spider. Now, like you said, there are other durometers, which is your thickness of materials. So that's a good question. I'll have to ask the engineers what they think about using rubber for material. That's a good question. When did Kicker decide to start using sewn-in leads? Oh, living loud with Andy. Dude, hey, Ernie, how long ago have we been doing sewn-in like Nessie leads? Has it been like 15, 20 years?
They was breaking on the L7.
Yeah.
All kinds of growing pains. We ended up with Nessie.
Yep.
And those you're looking at there, I forget what those are called, but Nessie and those were.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it was like 03, 04 is when we created that or came out with that. So it's been a while back that we started putting the tinsel leads into the spiders. And like Ernie said, it was two things. When it comes to building a speaker brand new or rebuilding a speaker in a standard hoop design where the tinsel leads just come in like that, if you get them too short, they'll break. If you get them too long, they'll vibrate against the cone. So by going woven into the spider, it gets you around both of those problems completely. You don't have to worry about it. So that solves that. Kip, how much of the speaker is made in-house? Good question, Bobby. If we're looking at this speaker right here, the design of this is 100% in-house here in Stillwater, Oklahoma. The tools that we make are done offshore with our different vendors. We have to have our tools made for us. And then the stamping process that you're seeing happen here in the build process, this happens offshore as well. We deal with different vendors all across the world. So this speaker, as you see it here, is not mass produced here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, but we design and engineer and prototype the whole thing here, and then we build it all up so that we can mass produce it as you see here. And I want to come back and address that on a material here in just a second, so I'll remember to come back to that. So everything you're seeing here, we engineer and R&D it, prototype it, test it, listen to it, tweak it, all that stuff's done here. Then we create our tools, and then we do have to use offshore manufacturing to make it happen. And that's probably another show in and of itself, is that making speakers in the USA, even the people who claim they're making them in the USA, are having to source all the parts, or just about 95% of them, outside of the USA, because the parts just aren't made here anymore. And that's a long story, but there you go. Hopefully that answers that question. So when I say we design these, tool them up and have them made, I mean, it's all the way down to like, here's a spring, here's a little spring, and then here is a inner assembly for the spring. And I don't know if Tim will even be able to get a good shot of that, but those two pieces right there, and then those coupled along with these two parts right here. So one goes over the other like this, the doghouse. These two parts together make up the push terminal for the speaker wire gets attached to the speaker. And we engineer and design this ourselves as well. This is not an when I say off the shelf part, meaning it's not like something that's mass produced at a company and anyone can just buy them and use them in making their speakers. This is actually something we engineered and designed. And then when it gets all put together, you know, there it is. It's a spring-loaded terminal that will hold up to an 8-gauge wire. Right there you go. So we make these. This is our own design. And then we make the landing for it. This is where the positive and negative come together. So if you take a look here, this terminal goes on here. It gets screwed in from the back. So this goes on the landing pad. And then off that landing pad, hopefully you can see this little piece right here. The big one goes to the push terminal. And the small one on this side is where the tinsel lead that comes off of the spider, that comes into here and that gets soldered. And so that's the connection. So you can see the wire gets connected to your push terminal. It goes through this lug. This lug is soldered to the wire that comes off of your spider like that. And that's how that is connected to your spider, is through that there. And when it gets all said and done, here's a final assembly that goes on an L7T. There's both your positive and your negative. And you can see there's the landings where both the positive and the negative wire come in and are attached and soldered down to the board. So there is our push terminal. And we engineer and design these in-house for each and every speaker that we manufacture. This just happens to be the one for the L7T. So now we've got the motor, we got the basket, we got the coil, we got the connectivity, we got the spider. Now we're going to come up and we're going to go to the surround. You ready? So here it is, folks. Right here in this bag is a surround. Boom, surround. Doesn't look like it, but all those pellets in there, Santoprene pellets that we use. And these pellets, the material itself, we actually source, and the ones that we do Santoprene in, we typically source all of our Santoprene here in the USA. We find that the Santoprene here just has a different characteristic to it. It tends to work better for us than some of the Santoprene that comes from offshore. And so this is a material that we actually source here in the United States of America, this Santoprene. And so these pellets, they get turned into this sheet of Santoprene material right here. So you can see it's just this big square sheet. And the thickness of this sheet is determined by the engineer, because after you go through the entire process, they want the surround to be a certain durometer or thickness. And that all has to do with resonance of the speaker and control and all the things they've decided in the design. But this is where it starts. It goes from pellet form right here into a sheet. And then that sheet goes into a stamping molding process. And this is what you end up with, is this right here. Believe it or not, that is a surround for an L7T subwoofer before it's been, you know, trimmed and cut out and finalized. But you can see this is the first process. You can see it's been shaped. The ribs have been formed into the corner. The center there where it's going to be cut so that the cone can actually be attached is there. That's all trimmed away, or will be trimmed away. This outer part here will be trimmed away. And when it gets punched, so here you can see kind of the flat, I've been basically shaped. This is when it goes through the final process of punching and cutting. And you can see here Then now the center's been cut out, the outside shape's been cut, the indentations here for where it's going to land into the gasket ring on top of the speaker, those have all been punched into there. And this is now ready to be attached to a cone, but I don't want to show you the cone yet. I want to show you the cone, then we'll show it all put together. I guess that's the best way to say it. So here's a cone. Doesn't look like it, but that right there is cone material. This is, polymer blends, the amount of material that's used, what other blends are put with it, or it's glass or fiberglass or whatever might be blended into it. That is an engineer who's designed the speaker his choice to come up with the right weight, stiffness, everything he's looking for in a speaker. So this is the material before it's blended, color coded, however you want it to be, because you can make the cones any color you want. And so and there is the first process or injection molding of a cone for an L7T 10-inch subwoofer. And you can see the basic shaping's been put in, the landings in the back are stamped in. It's a little rough. It doesn't look very good. It's kind of raw looking. But then this process here, we go from here. The next step, you can see it's cleaned up. The center is punched out. And then from this process here, it goes over to final cleaning and painting. And so here is a raw cone, and this is the final product right here. Pretty cool. And then this gets married to this. So here's the cone, and here is the surround that were produced. Those two are married together through using adhesives and that legendary KICKER stitching. KICKER is kind of the company that made stitching your speaker the thing to do. It really started back in the early 80s because the adhesives weren't strong enough to keep the speakers together. I mean, the speakers had such long throw, and in a car with the humidity and with the heat you deal with in a car, the bonds in there just weren't lasting. So KICKER figured out, hey, let's stitch them together. The glue is step one, bonding step two, and it really makes it a lot stronger joint. So it's kind of a feature that's hung around for years. Even though adhesives have gotten better, it still makes it a lot better when you stitch that cone to that surround. So when you marry these two together with the stitching and the glue, here's what you end up with. So here's a front view of the entire cone. And then here is a back view, and you can see after it's been stitched, it's glued and then stitched, and then there's actually another layer of adhesive sealant that goes around the back so that when the stitching is in there, obviously it's sewn together through a sewing machine process, and those little holes that are there where the thread goes in and comes back, that it creates, those are all sealed off with this secondary sealant/adhesive that's put on the back. 8 said 10. Oh, I'm sorry, is this an 8? My bad, 8-inch. Tim just corrected me. I've been saying 10-inch all along, apparently on an 8. Oops. So yeah, 8-inch driver. Ernie's laughing. He's having a hoot back there. I finally kept doing something wrong. So L7 8-inch right here. So this is what it looks like. Now, if you can get a look on the back, in that initial stamping process, you can see there's lots of shaping and molding in the back of this cone. And this is put in there for strength. All of this that you see going around in here is to strengthen and stiffen up that cone so that it acts as just a solid piston moving the air forwards and backwards as the speaker moves. And then this here, I want to kind of cheat. This right here, this is when it comes out of the injection molded machine. It's got the big piece of plastic there that holds it in the injection molding machine, things like that. But this, as you can see, after it goes through a cleaning process, becomes this. And what this is the collar that attaches to the cone that then attaches to the voice coil. So if you can see on the back of this, and hopefully I can show you guys here, you can see those literally like they sandwich together. I mean, there's notches and trowels and everything in there, but all that shaping adds strength. But then this is also notched to fit, and this is put on with adhesive. It's glued. So this is glued to the back. And when this is glued and put into a final assembly, that becomes your assembly so that you can attach the voice coil to the cone surround assembly. Make sense? And again, if anyone has any questions, man, feel free. Jeremy's back there. He'll take them, throw them up on the screen. But once this piece is added, at this point, it's ready to go and have the spider attached. It's ready to go and have the voice coil attached. So all those different processes can happen once this piece is attached to the back. So this is a very important piece because it makes that connection, that transition between the cone and the spider and the voice coil. And that's this right here. And of course, you want your speaker to look finished. So once this is all assembled, all the soldering's done, the wires are soldered to the leads and everything's completed, you want to have a cap, dust cap. Here's the dust cap, a solar brick dust cap. You can see that just locks right into place. And that looks cool. There's a final product. I'll snap it in. Of course, adhesive is put on there as well, but there's the final product. But when these are made, obviously, they also come out of an injection molding machine. They look a little flat right there. They don't look really cool or jazzy. It just looks like a part. And then after it comes out of that process, they get torn apart and cleaned. And then once they're cleaned, then as you can see, if you compare this one to this one, you see this has got a nice coat of finish on it and then a shiny coat on the solar barric. So you can see the difference between one that's come, well, even that one's, yeah, it's the same. I'm back here, I got a different glare. But you can see the difference between one before it's treated and one after it's treated. So there you go on that. So that gets you into the cone. Dust caps on there, final assembly. Then we come down here, we got to attach all this stuff to the speaker. So, yeah. Oh, Kip, dodging the question, CCA or copper tinsel leads, 25 hertz lice. That all depends on the design of the speaker, 25. Now, on this particular speaker that we're looking at here, this is 100% copper coil wire on here. Depending on the speaker you get into, it all has to do with how much copper, has to do with the impedance, it has to do with weight. So you can use aluminum wire. You can also use copper-coated aluminum wire, or you can use solid copper wire. I know we did the show on CCA versus copper when it comes to like 4-gauge, 8-gauge, 1-aught power wire. You're never going to get me to say CCA is a good wire to use in that situation. You always want to use copper in that situation. You're trying to pull a lot of current from a battery back to your amplifiers and do it safely, efficiently, and effectively. Always use copper. In a voice coil design, I can't make that statement because the engineers design the speaker, he may have a weight target he needs to hit. He may have an impedance target he needs to hit. And in that situation, they may use a copper-covered aluminum to save weight, or they may use an all-aluminum wire to save weight. And as long as in the design that the coil is designed to handle the amount of power that they're going to rate the speaker for and do it safely, efficiently, and effectively, it's perfectly fine. So this one in particular, this is 100% copper right here. If we go over to the L7X, I think this is 100% copper too, although I know we did talk about doing copper covered aluminum. I don't know what the final answer on that's been in the development process. I'll ask that question so we can answer that on a future show. By the weight on here, I'm going to say it's 100% copper, but maybe it is CCA. I'll have to ask. But when it comes to voice coil design, there's not one that's better than the other one. It really depends on what you're designing. What's the target? And like I said, it's a balancing act because you've got weight, you've got impedance, you got how much power you're going to run through it. All those things have to be juggled around by the acoustical engineer himself to figure out what's the best material to use on that voice coil. So good question. Thank you for asking. So over here, these two parts kind of go hand in hand. And as you can see, both of these are raw out of the injection molding machine. And this is the back of the gasket, the front gasket, and this is the top. So I'm gonna turn them around. It's gonna look weird because this is how they come out of the injection molding machine with the prong sticking out. But you can see this one's got the kicker molded into it. It hasn't been treated yet. It hasn't been cleaned up, so it's kind of dull looking. This is the back piece, which doesn't make much sense yet, but it will here in just a second. But these are raw out of an injection molding machine that, again, we have to make tools for. So with these two pieces, once they go through, I'm gonna start with the front one. The front one, you can see it gets cleaned up. It's got that center part missing there. They've done a little cleanup on it, and the kicker still looks a little dull on there. And then once this, it goes to the next process, and now you can see it's really clean. The entire thing has a finish on it. The kicker's shiny. It's because it's gone through its paint process. It's got the proper paint on there. Got everything we want on there. So this is the top gasket completed. And then this is just the one cleaned out. So this has got all the trimming and everything done from the process. And so this is the back of the top gasket. So how do these work? Well, this is pretty cool. So all those different stampings and cutouts that were in the surround there, I'm going to put this together. It'll be real cool. So hopefully Tim can capture this all on camera. See how everything lines up. There's a place for everything and everything in its place. So you can see the cutouts are there. It goes around the mounting holes for the screws. Everything lines up. There's a reason for all those cutouts and everything to be there. And then, so this is glued together. And then this to get it right so I don't have it upside down. I guess it wouldn't matter to you guys. It's got to bother me if I had the... And so this all gets glued together. You heard that satisfying snap. So it snaps together, and then it is put together with an adhesive, a type of glue. And so there is a completed cone, dust cap, front gasket assembly for an L7T subwoofer. And now this, of course, now we'll stack up to everything else. Now we have this. We then add our voice coil collar and basically our cone attachment piece here to the back, which hopefully I can get it on. So there, I can get it on there with my fingers. So this attaches to the back. Then we attach the spider. Then we attach the voice coil and pretend all those parts are stacked up in there and ready. And then this goes into the frame. And then the frame goes into the motor. And we're pretty dang close to having a fully functional speaker here. So we get to this point. This part right here, this is the cover, the cosmetic cover, and the piece that holds the terminals for the L7T speaker. And this is out of the injection molding machine. So you can see it's got that injection molding spike there where it's, the material's been put in and forced around to make the part. And then it's released from the tool. This is what you get. And then, of course, it's got to be cleaned up. And then finally, it goes to paint. So here it's been painted to match the whatever color scheme we've decided for that particular line of speakers to be. This is the color scheme that we all decided on. So this is the back piece, and then this goes on to the motor. I just dropped my dust cap. Sorry about that, folks. But this goes on to the motor like this. And then, of course, hopefully it'll stay together. I'm not working on the assembly line. Thank goodness. They wouldn't pay me very much. I do about 3 speakers a day. So the lead-in thing goes there, and then this basket goes over all of that. So hopefully I can get it to get you guys an idea. So there, boom. So there you got an idea of a completed L7T subwoofer. Ernie, do you have any beauty shots back there that you can put up on screen? I think we got a couple. Well, good. Let's roll some of that beautiful beam footage. So hopefully you guys get an idea from looking at all these parts. There's a lot that goes into engineering a speaker from the ground up. There's a lot of different parts. There's a lot of different sub-assemblies that you have to go through. There's a lot of different processes. And this is just to physically build the speaker. We haven't even talked about the hundreds of hours that have to go into actually listening, tuning, tweaking, measuring. I mean, we may go through this whole process. Like the guys may come up and go, okay, this is the voice coil we want to make. So we've wound up this voice coil and we try it. And then we put it into the first speaker and go, nope, it doesn't sound right. Well, why doesn't it sound right? Well, it's too heavy. It's not heavy enough. Who knows what it is? So we got to go back to the drawing board and redesign the voice coil. And then we get to the spider and they go, okay, great, but that didn't do everything we wanted to do. It didn't control, it wasn't linear enough, it didn't resonate where we wanted it to resonate, it didn't control underneath high excursion. There's a whole host of things that can be discovered as we're developing the speaker. So the tool that we had to make to get all the way to here to actually have a speaker to test, well, we just throw all that tooling away and have to redo it all again so we can get another model of this to try. So when it comes to the initial development of a speaker, there's a lot of time and money that goes into getting it tweaked out to work the way it does. And then once you've got it going, like, here it is, this works and does what we want, then you can start making actual, mass production parts off that tool. But, it's possible. I mean, I've seen it happen. You get all the way to here, final basket, and there's 9 or 10 stamping processes there, and we find a problem or a flaw, or this just doesn't work, or there's not enough clearance. You have to go back and start from ground zero and do it all again. So there's a lot of steps and processes that go into the design and the development of a subwoofer. As you can see, there's a lot of different steps that we have to go through to make each individual part and then roll them all up together into a final working subwoofer. It's fun, or we wouldn't do it. It's cool to see what happens on all this. You get it all done and you get to take a listen to it and go, wow, all that time and all that energy and all those raw parts turned into a speaker that makes my music sound good so I can enjoy it in my car or my van or my SUV or ATV, boat, wherever it might be. This is just looking at the process through the eyes of a single speaker. And he corrected me, this is the L7T8. Imagine this same process has to happen for the 10 and the 12 and that's in the L7T line. You go to a different line of speakers, and you go through that. You got to do the same thing again for all those different sizes. So there is a boatload, no pun intended, of design, research, tweaking, tuning, testing to get to that final part. And then when you got it all done, ready to go, this gives you guys a good overview of what goes into actually making a subwoofer. So are there any good questions, JW, that come out of the feed? Scott Hughes, since I haven't used KICKER for years, can I expect the old gold letter 12 sound from any new products, or is everything geared more for SPL? Scott, that's a good question. The way I'll answer that question, half jokingly, half serious, is KICKER subwoofers have always had a unique sound. The unique sound of KICKER subwoofers is because of the owner, Steve Irby, and the way he wants a speaker to sound. Now, I'm not going to say that the way KICKER speakers sound is the only way a speaker should sound or the best way a speaker should sound. It's just the way Steve thinks a speaker should sound. And because of the success we've had as a company, I think a lot of people tend to agree. Now, Steve has an ear that's been trained since he was, in high school. He's a musician. He was in a band. He played in a band called Moses here in Oklahoma that had a small amount of fame, but didn't nearly get as big as the Beatles. Everyone wanted to be the Beatles back in that time frame. But Steve understands music. He plays music to this day. He still plays at events that we put on here. He plays the keyboards. Every now and again, I'll be here after hours, and I'll catch sound coming from downstairs at his office, and it's him and Fernando and maybe someone else down there in his office, and they're having a jam out session right there in his office, believe it or not. So Steve understands music. And the thing about it is that's why KICKER speakers sound the way they do. Steve signs off on every single one before they leave. I've been blessed to be determined that I can hear, and I get involved in some of our evaluation meetings that we have to listen to how a speaker sounds. And so I've actually had a hand in helping develop speakers and how they sound here at KICKER. And it's fun, and I've got to learn from who I consider to be one of the masters of it, and that's Mr. Steve Irby himself. We actually keep a running window of speakers here so that we can go back and evaluate. I mean, people jokingly, the Coke says, hey, we got a secret formula for Coke, and it's in the vault in Atlanta, and it's the only formula for Coke. Well, we got a secret formula for how our subwoofer sound, and it's Mr. Steve Irby. He's taken Aaron Surratt. We've had Aaron on the show a few times. Aaron has kind of become his right-hand guy, and he's training Aaron in how he designs speakers and why he designs speakers the way he does and the sound of it. And a lot of the products that have been coming out are kind of a Steve Irby, and Aaron's had his home runs too, where he's kind of put his flavor or twist on it. But at the end of the day, they still come back down to Steve Irby's roots in music of how he wants a speaker to sound. So I can tell you, any speaker today, they all have that KICKER unique sound. They're not just designed for SPL. Even this speaker, which is going to be designed for SPL and big bass, it's going to sound good. It's going to sound good doing it. It just happens to be that this speaker is going to be able to move, 3 1/8, 3 1/4 inches peak to peak travel. When you move that far or have the capability to move that far, you can now float babies in the windshield or bricks or whatever you like to do. That's what this speaker is going to be designed to do. But by the same token, a single L7X10 in a sealed box in a car, is it going to sound good? Absolutely. You're going to have to put some power on it. It's a big, heavy structure. So that's one of the things you get into big, heavy woofers like this that move really long distances. It takes a lot of power to get them to move. But is this woofer going to sound good? Yeah, I've heard it. They sound fantastic. So there is a KICKER signature sound. It's the way Steve wants speakers and woofers to sound, and we carry that through our entire product line, including the L78 walk that we just did here. So good question. Great one. How you get a speaker max power handling? Marcus Nance. Marcus, that's a good question. This right here is, we try to think of this as a light bulb, okay? And this light bulb is designed to take so much electrical energy into it, and it's going to do two things. It's going to, instead of making light, this thing makes motion because it's going to move. And in both cases, there's heat. This is going to create heat. A light bulb creates heat. So when it comes to RMS power handling in the whole process, we kind of have an idea. We have targets. We know a certain size wire, so much of it's going to be capable of passing so much voltage or amperage through it, which you're talking wattage at that point, because that's all wattage is a way to express amperage and voltage. So there is a way about that. But when it comes to how much power can this voice coil handle, it's how much voltage and current can I pass through this, and how long will I be able to pass it through there, and this speaker as it's moving, cooling itself, how long can I run so much power into it that it's going to stay working? Just like if you take a 110 volt light bulb and you were to accidentally plug it into 220 volts, That kind of happened around here recently in an RV, but that's another story. You know what happens to the lights? They go poof. Well, that's what power ratings on speakers are for, is we want to figure out how much power can you run through a voice coil before it goes poof. So the engineers have an idea. They have targets they work with, but then at the end of the day, how we come up with our power handling ratings, we've gone through a bunch of different hoops, and basically we have our own system that we do in-house now. If I go back to the early 80s, all joking aside, it was kind of power ratings we determined like this. What do you think, guys? 350 watts? Yeah, 350 watts sounds good. Everyone kind of an idea. A coil of this size with this gauge of wire should be able to handle this kind of power for X amount of time. As we've moved forward and better tools have come along, we're lucky enough to have 3 clipples here in-house, and a clipple is a device that lets us look and analyze a speaker for anything and everything we want to, and one of those is determining max power handling. We can actually see how much heat the voice coil is creating. We can watch it ramp up as we add power to it. We can find out how long it'll run at a certain power rating. And then once we come up with some certain numbers, we actually do very, very long tests on all of our speakers, like subwoofers. Most of those go through, it's a 20 to 100 hertz or 20 to 80 hertz mixed pink noise signal. They have to play for 100 hours at our RMS power rating to be able to pass that RMS power rating. And the clipple helps us determine where we need to go and get from there. So the days of, kind of going off of just the science of the wire and experience are still there, but really tools like the clipple, and then we back it up with actual abuse testing, let us determine where we need to rate a speaker. So that's where we come up with power handling. When it comes to power handling, this is what I will tell you. Including ours, the ones that have it, just take max power rating and throw it out the window. Look at the RMS power rating and just ignore everything else. You'll be doing yourself a favor. Jeffrey Belk, sorry about that. Will the new subwoofer be offered for shallow mount for truck? The new okay. If you're talking about this new subwoofer, Jeffrey, the answer to that would be no. This will not be offered in a shallow mount. This driver, in order to have 3 1/4 inches peak-to-peak travel, it takes that much motor structure, it takes that much of an assembly and everything to make that happen. So if you're asking if this driver is going to be available in a shallow mount, the answer is no. It's going to be available in that mount right there and that mount only. So if that's what you mean by new subwoofer, that's what that product is targeted at. And no, there will not be a shallow mount. Shallow mount, if you have a place where you need to do shallow mount, that's where a CVT, a Comp RT, or an L7T is your friend. Just like we went through the L7T8 here, these drivers are designed to give you great performance in shallow mount applications. Here's the thing. I will never tell you that an L7T10 is going to have the same amount of output capability of an L7X10, because that would be a blatant lie. That is a much larger motor. It has much longer throw. That speaker is going to be capable of getting a lot louder, but it's going to take you 2,000 watts to get there. An L7T10 is going to fit in your vehicle. It's going to give you great bass down to 20 hertz. It's full bandwidth. This L7 driver just happens to play all frequencies a whole lot louder because it moves farther. The L7T, it plays all frequencies as well. It just can't move 3 1/4 inches because the whole speaker is barely 4 inches deep. So these are application-specific speakers that are designed to give you the most you can get in a shallow mount situation. Just understand and be realistic. You're not going to get performance like that driver is going to be capable of in a thin mount driver, because to get that, you've got to go deeper. You just have to. There's no way around it. So what was that question that came up? Kip, what's your favorite overall kicker that holds your heart? Ooh, Catfish Headhunters. If I look at every speaker that Kicker's ever made and which one captures my heart, I would probably say, and maybe it's because it's the first time I dealt with those particular drivers, or they were so revolutionary at the time, I would say it's the original Solobaric round, especially the D series, the round D series solos. Those drivers, man, they have a place in my heart that'll never go away. I remember my first time I put a pair of those 12s in my own car, and the box was so small. It's like, this box is ridiculous. There's no way this woofer is going to sound good in this box. And I hooked it up and I played it, and I was blown away with what I got out of that subwoofer. So maybe my fondness of that memory, or the fact it was so revolutionary, is what's lodged it into my head. But you're never going to get me to say that I don't like any of them. But I will say my first love was probably that Solobaric round driver, because it was so revolutionary. And if you got up to that D series, I think that D series Solobaric was that thing was awesome. So there you go. From my perspective, don't understand how that's my perspective. Any other questions? Okay, folks, I knew I tried to get through all this. Man, I knew it was going to be just touch and really long show, especially with bringing Andy in, but I wanted to get him in and congratulate him for getting engaged and appreciate that with everyone here in the community. So with that said, it's 9:05. Let's go ahead. I know we got winners tonight, Bill. Let's get our third place, our second place, and our first place winners announced tonight. And then if there's any good questions after we do the announcements, I'll answer a couple more, and then we will roll the show up. So if you have entered the contest for tonight, we're going to draw the winners for the Unmasked weekly giveaway that we do here on Tuesday night. If you're a winner, some things. You can reach out tonight. You can send an email if you want to social@kicker.com. That gets you right into Bill Frog's inbox. Bill will be reaching out to all winners tomorrow, so you can just wait for Bill to reach out to you. Once Bill reaches out to you, we need you to claim your prize within 7 days. We typically don't have a problem with that. We've had 1 or 2 stragglers, and if you don't reply after 7 days, we go ahead and draw another winner, and we move that prize down to someone else. So you do that 7 days. Keep that in mind. If you are a winner chicken dinner, what I need from you when you get that email from Bill is we need you to send us your shipping address. No P.O. boxes, please. We cannot ship to a P.O. box. We also need you to send us your phone number, cell number or home phone number, whichever you prefer. And I'm sincere when I say this. We do not use it for any marketing purposes. It doesn't go any further than into the shipping information, because it doesn't matter how we ship it to you. If they need to reach out to you to arrange the delivery, they can't find your house, they need you to come to the hub to pick it up, they have to have a phone number to contact you. So please provide us with a phone number, and you won't get any strange texts from Bill Frog in the middle of the night that I'm aware of. And then last but not least, confirm your shirt size. We know we have a drop-down box when you enter the contest, but if you were in a hurry to get back to the show, maybe you meant to hit extra large and you hit medium. And trust me, nothing looks worse on an extra large guy than a medium, so let's make sure we get you the right shirt size. So with all that said, applies to all 3 winners tonight. Bill, let's roll into number 3. Who is our number 3 winner tonight? Winner number 3 is Travis S. from Missouri. Travis S. from Missouri, you're our number 3 winner tonight. That means you're going to be on the hook for a set of EB300 earbuds, a pair of Kicker koozies to keep your favorite beverage chilled while you're watching the Kicker Unmasked show or mowing the yard or doing whatever. And I'm blocking it, so I'll get out of the way here. And as you can see over my shoulder right here, one of the lovely Kicker Unmasked t-shirts. That's going to get into your mailbox as well. So thank you for participating tonight and entering the contest and watching the show. Travis S. from Missouri, number 3. Who's number 2, Bill? Winner number 2 is Ryan M. from Washington State. Ryan, you are also a winner chicken dinner tonight. You're getting the same prize package. You're going to get a set of those EB300 earbuds, a pair of koozies, and one of those wonderful Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly event tees. And that brings us to winner number 1 tonight. And winner number 1 tonight is rock solid, because you're actually going to get a loaded Kicker box with a 10-inch VR. Is that right, Jeremy? L7R? Yes. I'm just looking for the answer. Loaded enclosure. That's a huge prize for tonight. So grand prize tonight's going to be that loaded enclosure. It's going to be a Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirt and a pair of those koozies. So with that said, Bill, who is our grand prize winner tonight? Tonight's grand prize is David M. from Massachusetts. David M. from Massachusetts. You are our grand prize winner tonight. Again, everyone, you can reach out directly to social@kicker.com, or you will be getting an email from Bill Frog sometime tomorrow. Just simply reply with your email or reply with your shipping address, no P.O. box, your phone number, and confirm your shirt size. Thank you for tuning in to Kicker Unmasked, and thank you for being winners on tonight's show. So with that said, JW, are there any quick questions? From Train. How you doing, Train? Good to see you. I've seen you in the feed a lot here lately. Thanks for joining us. What if we never received an email? I shot my email over first with information, but have no response from 2 shows ago. Well, Train, if you're a winner and you receive no response, are you sure you're reaching out to social@kicker.com? Please confirm that. And I will actually have Bill follow up and check on that to make sure. But you should have got an email from, and you'll want to reply to social, SOCIAL, @kicker.com. I won't say that it's not possible you got caught in a spam filter coming this way or going out. We need to make sure that didn't happen, but please reach out. And if you can't get any contact, you can always call in 800-256-0808, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and ask to speak to, I'm going to put you in Bill. Just ask to speak to Bill. We'll figure it out. Okay. Hopefully that answers that question. Any other product-related question or anything about tonight's show that's worth a shot? Okay. Going once? Going twice? Going out of here. Okay, folks, that wraps up the show for tonight. We're running about 10 minutes late, which is a little more than I want to be, but I knew we had a lot to cover tonight. I certainly appreciate you tuning in. You know, Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly, we put this on every Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time, right here on our Kicker Facebook and YouTube channels. If you have any ideas that you'd like to bring forward for things you'd like to see on the show, always drop those into the chat feed here, or better yet, reach out to social@kicker.com. Let Bill Frog know what you'd like to see on the show. As always, it's my pleasure to be one of the 5 knuckleheads here in the studio tonight. We got Tim back in the studio on cameras, and man, I'm glad to have him. I couldn't have done tonight's show without him. Thank you, Tim. We got JW back there. He is back from off the road. Love having him. He helps make things run real smooth here with the StreamYard. We got Bill Frog, as always, taking care of social media and answering questions for you guys. And the ever-loving Ernie, who's always back there trying to make me stay on my toes. It's our pleasure to be the 5 individuals here at Stillwater Designs in Stillwater, Oklahoma, to be representing the entire company here. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday night right here on Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Have a great one, everyone. See you soon.